Kaleidoscope. Where to even begin unpacking this one? There's so much wrong with it. There's so many writing and structural problems to talk about. But I don't want to drone on and on and on about the smaller issues because the show is just so devoid of personality that I don't want to. I mostly want to focus on the main issues around the selling points of the show. The plot is suitable, there's no real pros or cons to the story. I had no emotional investment in the cast whatsoever. I couldn't care less what happened to them before or after the heist. There was one twist and the tiniest sliver of character development throughout 8 episodes. That's it. Also, this guy is the absolute worst.
I am a moron.
This clown decided, out of greed, to deviate from a plan on his smallest heist the team had and almost got his hand blown off. He ruined so much of the plans before the main heist even began and would most likely be the reason they got caught due to his impulsiveness. But no one makes any real suggestions, discussion, plans, ideas, anything whatsoever to get rid of this guy. You would think that Leo, that just got out of prison, would do everything in his power to ensure he never sees a thin toilet again. Well, they will just kind of go on about the business, even when it's so obvious this guy will ruin everything. It doesn't make logical sense to me, and it is so frustrating. And I don't understand why they don't try to replace him. And guess what happens in the main heist? Yeah, you guessed it. There were more examples of frustrating writing choices, but this one specifically, this one got under my skin. I was only interested in the show because of the kaleidoscope concept of being able to watch the show in any order and have a different experience every time. Except then, of course, for episode 1 that need to be lost. You would think that if there is a studio out there that would be able to hit the bullseye with this idea, it would be a well funded and experienced studio like Netflix, right? But nope. They took a big bite and immediately choked, and I mean immediately. This novel idea is not an easy one to execute, so I don't think anyone expected perfection from the first attempt, but they bungled, and they bungled hard. If you think about it practically, if there's 8 episodes in total and you have to keep episode white last, you have 7 episodes that you can watch in any order and have a different experience each time. That's the claim. That is a total of 5,040 different combinations. That on its own is insane. Even if you disregard the blunders they make in their approach, which I'll definitely get to, you'll need to create each episode and consider the relationship of that one episode to all the other episodes and whether they could potentially flow into one another regardless of the order the viewer chooses and still present a coherent story. If you start with episode Red, let's say, that episode would need to fit to each of the other ones in a meaningful way so that if you watch episode Black next, it makes sense. Then you would need to have the exact same idea for episode Black,
and so on and so forth.
that's what I mean when I say they bit off more than they could chew. I can't imagine any show ever really having so many episodes and being able to really accomplish this concept. To have to consider 7 episodes to this extent is too much. If you want to execute this idea properly, you would need to decrease the number of episodes significantly to probably 3 or 4. 4 episodes would still be 24 different combinations, essentially 24 different experiences or stories. I think that's too much. It's doable, but I think it's too much. 3 is probably the golden balance to aim for here. Then at least you would have something along this line. Okay. So you break it down like this. You have a heist episode, a celebration episode, and a jail episode. This would obviously be dependent on the intent of the writers and the plot and a lot of other things, but let's stick to this idea for now. If you watch the jail episode first, and then the heist, and then lastly the celebration episode, you will most likely get a story of a group that broke out or got out of jail by serving their time, performed a heist, and are now enjoying their spoils. If you have a celebration episode first, then the heist, and then lastly the jail, that would portray a story of a group that just came from a successful heist or came into wealth naturally, got greedy, did another heist, and got caught, and are now spending their time in jail. You can mix and match these 3 episodes however you want and still get a valid story from it. This way, you have 3 episodes that you could provide 6 coherent different stories based on the order you watch it. And that is what they ultimately planned for, isn't it? The key to the above approach is to not have any specific clues or giveaways as to the chronological order of these events so that they can be interchangeably swapped however the viewer wants. That sounds rather logically imperative, right? They did not see it this way. Not only did they blatantly state the dates and timeframes for certain episodes, like 15 years ago, 24 years ago, they actually included the damn timelines in the name of each episode relative to the heist day. I mean, are you kidding me? How on earth do you expect people to have a different experience or watch it in any order when you do this? All you end up with is a chronological show that was cut up and is now jumbled around. Obviously, the audience will just watch the show, piece each episode where it's supposed to be as they go along. No one will have a different experience. They would just watch the same show with some episodes out of place. How do you mess this up so bad? I just followed the structure that Netflix had at default. I'm not going to watch an episode, then go out of the menu, randomly pick an episode, and do this every time. I could be wrong on this one, but I believe the order that Netflix presents it in randomizes for everyone. So you probably had a different order to watch the show than I, but I can't confirm this 100%. And another thing, I followed the suggestion and watched episode White Lost, that is the actual heist episode itself. And because I watched all the other episodes first, which also shows what happens the morning after the heist and 6 months after the heist, I knew the outcome of the heist even before watching the episode. So much of the suspense and tension was ripped away because I had to watch that one last. To continue tearing into the show, I have to get into some spoiler territory, so this is your warning. Before any of the main events in the show, chronologically speaking, Leo and Roger were working together, stealing some high end jewels from a hotel where Leo's wife was working at the time, or just got fired from. And during the heist, they got greedy, someone saw them, and all hell broke loose. Roger starts a fire as a diversion to try and escape. Leo's wife inevitably got caught in the fire, and there's a moment where Roger had a potential opportunity to save Leo's wife. It was a very wishy-washy situation, but he decided to make a run for it. Leo saw this, he got caught later on, ended in jail, broke out, and is now looking for revenge. And that is the driving force for Leo behind the entire heist. It's not a monetary motivation but revenge. While Leo was in prison, Roger built a security company that houses a very secure vault, and some dodgy elites are storing some valuable assets there. Roger has his own corner of the vault for his assets specifically. So while I was watching the episode about the morning after the heist, the FBI gets to Roger's vault. He opens it up and the audience doesn't get to see it, but there's something there, something incriminating in the vault, and he ends up in jail as we see in the 6 months after the heist episode. Regardless of what exactly it was, we already know the outcome. Roger goes to jail. So there's no real build up or tension because the outcome has already been spoon fed to you. In the heist episode, we get to see that during the heist, Leo left behind some of the jewels that they stole. But the moment is so anticlimactic and empty that even if it is a smart way to incriminate Roger, it falls flat. Imagine if you watched the show chronologically. You would have seen Leo leave behind the jewel in the vault. Or better yet, we shouldn't have seen what he leaves behind. It builds as you kind of mull over what he could have left behind. Ending the episode on that note, the FBI rolls up the next morning, all puffed chest and rolled up sleeves, demanding the safe be opened. And there it is, the payoff. And Roger goes to jail. We get satisfaction. If they just kept to the normal structure, it would have been so much more satisfying. And this is not the only example, but it goes to show how they just had to mess up the show. What a waste. I don't know why I had better hopes for this one. With the track record Netflix has, I should have known better. I let myself get hopeful, but a lesson learned. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving some red and blue jewels behind. Thanks for watching.